in my own thinking. The wine was helping me relax, have a better social life, have more fun.
When Kari was drinking, it was just an extension of already who she was. She was fun, she was happy.
I appeared from the outside world that I had it all together. I'm so successful. I'm so this. And inside, I wasn't feeling like that at all.
Kari would have a glass of wine with dinner, a glass of wine after dinner, but noticed on weekends or when we were with friends, it got a little excessive and we had conversation about it. Maybe she should tone down the consumption. But other than that, I thought everything was normal.
I didn't identify as being an alcoholic. I didn't have any major issues. I just felt like crap all the time for drinking too much.
When you're married and you love someone, maybe you don't see the forest for the trees.
I was a gray area drinker for years. Gray area drinking is the space that's in between somebody that would be identifying as a social drinker and being an alcoholic. It's this in-between space. A social drinker is somebody who could have one or two drinks every so often and it not really be a big deal. There's literally socially drinking from time to time. Somebody who would identify as an alcoholic or suffering from alcoholism really is physically and psychologically dependent on alcohol. My day-to-day life looked like this. I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd open the fridge, I'd pour a glass of wine, I'd have a glass of wine while I was making dinner, have a glass of wine while eating my dinner, and then I'd have a glass of wine for dessert. And then half the time I'd be like, there's only one glass left in the bottle. Might as well finish that too. And this becomes the pattern that happened for me that happens to a lot of people. So if I had a rough night and I drank too much the night before, I'd say, dang it, why did I do that? I'm not gonna do that again today. And by 1 o'clock, I'd be feeling better and I'd be planning what I was having for dinner because I was in the mood for white wine, so I thought I'd have chicken or fish. This was my everyday thought process. According to some of the studies I've read, about 50% of the population that currently drinks alcohol is in the gray area. That is a tremendous amount. Gray area drinkers might start off with just having, a glass or two here and there, and it becomes more of a habitual process. We're using alcohol to either numb something or escape or not have a feeling that we don't want to feel, that sort of thing. So once you feed it something and then your brain says, oh, this felt good and it helped me get rid of this, then your brain says, hey, remember that. It's dopamine. That's what dopamine does within our brains. So this becomes our familiar pattern. So when we come home from work and we've had a rough day and we know that, well, if we have a glass of wine, that's gonna help release some of the stress and the pressure that we're under, that's something like, hey, remember that. And then we need to do more of it in order to get the same effect. And this is how addictions start to happen.
Ready, Lily? Go.
My father, God bless him, never drank a drop in his life. My mom was an alcoholic. I think from my upbringing, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't bad. She had good days and bad days. They had good days and bad days, but my father dealt with it. Maybe that's where I learned, how to keep the balance in my own relationship with my wife from what I saw with my parents. There was one time where we were at a friend's house and she got completely out of control. And we came home that night and I pretty much told her, you never can get like that again. Because I was uncomfortable with what I saw. I was uncomfortable with how you were behaving.
Wine relaxed me, but it also numbed me out where I couldn't think clearly or be clear-minded. And what it really did for me, Patty, over time, was that I felt like it was stealing my joy. Wine was really stripping me of my self-worth and self-love and communication, showing up for my family. And one evening I came home, it was July 4th, 2016. I'd been drinking all day with friends, holiday, and I said some choice words to my younger son. I don't remember everything I said to him, but he reminded me the next day. That was my rock bottom. That was my enough. No mom should ever say anything like that to her child. And I started getting serious about making a change. I think a lot of my drive to want to drink was a lot of baggage I was carrying around for years. My parents divorced when I was 9 or 10. They're loving parents, but because they divorced, they had their own issues going on. And my sister's 6 years older than me, so I felt very alone. I went to 12 different schools in 9 years. I was bullied, and I was quite the troublemaker in school. Like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, a lot of sexual abuse from kids way older, like 19. That really affected me. I wore a victim badge. It was like, well, this is why I'm not as good as I could be, or why I'm not trying as hard as I could be, because I have all this that happened to me. And that's how I looked at it. It happened to me. Now I look at it as it happened for me. I look at all those things were the perfect setup for right here, right now. What held me back for so long is because the only thing I knew was Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't want to go to a meeting and say, hi, I'm Kari, and I'm an alcoholic. That felt so wrong for me. And it made me feel like I was going to be broken and powerless forever. I gained a lot of insight, tools, a lot of value from the program. For people who identify as an alcoholic that truly need recovery, it is the best place to start, but it isn't for everybody. After I left AA after a few months, I ended up working with a life coach, and that experience completely changed my life. It took a lot of trauma healing. It took my own desire to change, my own desire to shift out of the gray and into this place that I knew that I always wanted, that I deserved to have. We all deserve to have.
How that made you feel when you tried.
So I do focus a lot on the why. What's driving it? What's driving the behaviors? What's driving this emotional feelings that you have? Because it's not the alcohol. The alcohol is just there as a coping aid. There's something else going on. And I think a lot of times when we can reframe the way we look at something, I choose not to drink versus I can't drink. I can't have it, or I'm choosing not to have it. Totally different feeling. And there's a permission that goes there. I'm in charge. I'm in control.
I was your epitome of the social drinker. With the research, with the understanding, for me, I was just, why should I participate in it if it's not good for me? December 31st, out on that patio, I had my last Belgian beer. And I haven't had a drop of alcohol since. And I don't miss it. I really don't. When I met her, she had a Mustang with a 302 and a posi rear, and she used to do burnouts. It was the cool thing about her, right? So Kari is Kari, right? Like I said, the alcohol just brought out more of that wild side. But she's just a beautiful person too. Her compassion to help people and, always trying to better herself has always inspired me.
Question the drink. Question your relationship with alcohol. How is it serving you? How are you using it? Why is it beneficial for you or not beneficial for you? For those that still enjoy alcohol and that's something that they wish to do, there's no judgment or shame in that. And there's no judgment or shame for those that choose not to.
I just really want people to understand that it's good to explore that gray area. And I would encourage people to do that for themselves, for each other, for the ones you love, because it takes you to your next level.
So what I've gained is a ton of confidence, a ton of self-worth, and self-love and compassion for myself that I never had.